All right, I'm John. I'm reading Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards, and we are jumping right back into it. Drawing closer to reality. Once we have accepted that the brain is changing information and not telling us that it has done so, some of the problems of drawing become clearer. And learning to see what is actually out there in the real world becomes very interesting. Note that the perceptual phenomenon of consistency is probably essential to ordinary life. It reduces the complexity of incoming data and enables us to have stable concepts. The problems start when we try to see what is really out there for purposes of checking reality, solving real problems, or drawing realistically. And it turns out that the brain is also changing visual sizes depending on whether what it is looking at seems interesting or important or not. Again, this is overdoing it, and we need a way to discern reality. The mystery of the chopped off skull and the misplaced ear. In this introduction to drawing the profile, I concentrate on two critical relationships that are persistently difficult for beginning drawing students to perceive correctly. The location of eye level in relation to the length of the whole head, and the location of the ear in the profile view. I believe these are two examples of perceptual errors caused by the brain's propensity to change visual information to better fit its concepts. Looking at human faces, the chopped off skull error. Looking at human faces, most people think that the eyes are about 1/3 of the way down from the top of the head. The actual measure is 1/2. I think this misperception occurs because the important visual information is in the features, not in foreheads and hair areas, apparently because the top half of the head is less compelling than the features. The features are perceived as larger and the top half is diminished. This error in perception results in what I've called the chopped off skull error, my term for the most common perceptual error made by beginning drawing students. I stumbled on this problem at the university many years ago while teaching a group of beginning drawing students. They were working on portrait drawing, and one student after another had drawn the model with a chopped off skull. I went through my usual questioning. Can't you see that the eye level line, an imaginary horizontal line that passes through the inside corners of the eyes, is halfway between the top edge of the hair and the bottom of the chin? The students said, "No, we can't see that." I asked them to use their pencils to measure the location of eye level on the model's head, then on their own heads, and then on each other's heads. "Is the measure 1-to-1? I asked. "Yes," they said. "Well," I said, "now you can see on the model's head that the proportional relationship is 1-to-1. Isn't that true?" "No," they said. "We still can't see it." One student even said, "We'll see it when we can believe it." This went on for a while until finally the light dawned and I said, "Are you telling me that you really can't see that relationship?" "Yes," they said, "we really can't see it." At that point, I realized for the first time that brain processes were actually preventing accurate perception and causing the chopped off skull error. Once we all agreed on this phenomenon, the students were able to accept their measurements of the actual proportion, and soon the problem was solved. Now we must use our intervening glitch, that is, measurement by sighting, to put your own brain into a logical box. You need to show it irrefutable evidence that it will help it accept your sightings of the proportions of the head. The top half of the head is important after all. Contrary to what one would expect, most students have few serious problems in learning to see and draw features on a human head. I've done some drawings to demonstrate how important it is to provide the full skull for the features, to not cut off the top of the head, because your brain finds it less important and makes you see it smaller. On the left side, I have drawn features only, without the rest of the skull. In the middle are the identical features with the cut-off skull area. On the right are the identical features again, this time with the full skull in correct proportion to the features and the lower half of the head. You can see that it's not the features that cause the problem of wrong proportion. It's the size of the features in relation to the skull. Turn to figure 9-10 to see a clear example of the chopped off skull area in Vincent van Gogh's drawing, September 1881, of a carpenter. The drawing is from a period when the artist was struggling to learn to draw. By December of 1882, in his drawing Old Man Reading, Van Gogh had solved his many proportional problems, including the proportions of the head. Please take a few minutes to closely compare the two drawings. Are you convinced? Is your logical left hemisphere convinced? Good. You will save yourself from making many basic mistakes in drawing. Number 1, drawing a blank to help overcome the effects of size consistency. Please copy the oval shape as shown in figure 9-12. This shape is called a blank, used by artists in diagrams representing the front view human skull. Draw a vertical line through the center of the blank, dividing the shape in half. This dividing line is called the central axis. 2. Next, locate the horizontal eye level line which crosses the central axis at right angle and places the eyes at half of the whole form. Check this correct placement of the eyes on your own head, as shown in figure 9-13. Use your pencil to measure the distance from the inside corner of one eye to the bottom of your chin. Do this by placing the eraser end to protect your eye at the inside corner of one eye, and marking with your thumb the bottom of your chin bone. Next, holding that measurement, as in figure 9-14, raise the pencil and compare the first measurement, eye level to chin. With the measurement from your eye level to the top of your head, it may help to feel across from the end of the pencil to the topmost part of your head. You will find that those two measurements are the same. Repeat the measurements in front of a mirror. Regard the reflection of your head. Try to see the one-to-one relationship. Then use your pencil to repeat the measurement one more time. If you have newspapers or magazines handy, check the proportion of photographs of people's heads, or check out the photo of English writer George Orwell, figure 9-15. Use your pencil to measure. You will find that eye level to chin equals eye level to the top of the skull. I suggest you memorize this as a rule. This is a proportion that almost never varies. Number 5. Turn on the television to a news program and measure the talking head right on the TV screen by placing your pencil flat on the screen. Measuring first the eye level to chin, then the eye level to the top edge of the head. Now take the pencil away and look again. You can see the proportion clearly now. When you finally believe what you see, you will find that on virtually every head you observe, the eye level is at about the halfway mark. It is almost never less than half, that is, almost never nearer to the top of the skull than to the bottom of the chin. And if the hair is thick, as in the Orwell photograph, or is dressed high, the top half of the head, eye level to the topmost edge of the hair, is proportionally even larger than the bottom half. The chopped off skull creates the mask-like effect so often seen in children's drawings, abstract or expressionistic art, and so-called primitive or ethnic art. This mask-like effect is enlarging the features relative to the skull size, of course. can have tremendous expressive power, as seen, for example, in works by Picasso, Matisse, and Modigliani, and great work of other cultures. The point is that master artists, characters, and cartoonists, especially of our own time and culture, use the device by choice and not by mistake. Later on, you may decide to make use of deliberately changed proportions, but for now, you are training your eye to see what is really out there. Drawing another blank and getting a line on the profile. Next, please copy a second blank, this time for the human head in profile, figure 9-16. The profile blank is somewhat different shape, like an oddly shaped egg, because the human skull seen from the side is a different shape than the skull seen from the front. In profile, the human skull is wider than in front view. It's easier to draw the blank correctly if you observe that the negative spaces are different from side to side in the lower half. Making sure that you have first drawn the eye level line at the halfway point of the blank, measure it. You may want to sketch in the features. First, however, notice how small the features are relative to the whole shape of the head in profile. To compare the relationship, cover the features with one finger or with your pencil. You will see that the features are a tiny portion of the whole skull. This is a surprisingly difficult perception when observing people, and I believe the brain enlarges the features because they transmit the most important information. The other most common error in drawing the profile, the misplaced ear. The next measurement is extremely important in helping you correctly perceive the placement of the ear, which in turn will help you correctly perceive the width of the head in profile and prevent chopped off the back of the skull. When drawing a profile, most beginning students draw the ear too close to the features and then misperceive the width of the skull, which is once more chopped off, this time at the back. Look again at the Van Gogh drawing, figures 9-10 and 9-11, to see examples of the misplaced ear problem in Carpenter and its solution in Old Man Reading. Again, the cause of this very common problem may be linked to the size consistency problem. Perhaps the brain views the expanse of cheek and jaw as uninteresting and boring, and therefore misperceives the width of the space between the eye and the ear. As before, intervening with measurement, sighting, and then believing your sights is the solution to the common problem. On your own head, use your pencil to again measure the length from the inside corner of one eye to the bottom of your chin, figure 9-17. Now, holding that measurement, lay the pencil horizontally along your eye line. With your eraser end at the outside corner of your eye, you will find that the measurement coincides with the back edge of your ear. The position of the ear doesn't vary much from head to head. The size of the ears varies quite a lot, but the position is almost invariable. Memorize this mnemonic: eye level to chin equals back of eye to back of ear. If you will learn this verbal reminder, it will save you from another stubborn problem in drawing the human head. Once again, eye level to chin equals back of eye to back of ear. It is not just that the distance is hard to see, it is that you can't see it because of presumed brain processes that are out of your control. Visualizing an equal-sided right-angled triangle, an isosceles triangle that is another useful technique and a more visual R mode style method for correct placement of the ear. Since you now know that two measurements are equal from eye level to chin, equals back of eye to back of ear, you can visualize connecting these 3 points into an isosceles triangle, as shown in figure 9-20. This is an easy way to place the ear correctly. The isosceles triangle can be visualized on the model. Going back to your profile blank, draw the isosceles triangle that marks the back of the ear. This visual reminder will also help to prevent many problems and errors in your profile drawings. We need to make 2 additional measurements on the profile blank. Holding your pencil horizontally just under one ear, slide the pencil forward as in figure 9-21. You come to the space between your nose and mouth. This is the level of the bottom of your ear. Make a mark on the blank. This is an approximate measurement since ears vary in size. Next, we need to locate the bending point where the back of the neck meets the skull. This point is higher than you expect it to be. In childhood drawings, a tiny neck is usually drawn directly under the oval of the head. This will cause problems in your drawing. The neck will be too narrow. Look again at the middle drawing in figure 9-8b and 9-9b on page 117. Check where the back of your neck meets your skull by holding your pencil horizontally just under your ear and sliding the pencil to the back of your neck. Nod your head up and down. You will come to the place where your skull and neck connect, the place that bends. Mark this point on the blank. You will need to practice these perceptions. Look at people. Try to see beyond the perceptual changes your brain is making. Practice perceiving the real proportions, the real relationships. Soon you will see that individual faces have almost identical proportions, yet are amazingly unique and varied in their details and overall configuration. You are now well prepared to draw a profile portrait. You will be using all of the skills you have learned so far, focusing on complex edges and negative spaces until you feel the shift to an alternative state of consciousness, one in which your right hemisphere leads and your left hemisphere is quiet. Remember that this process requires an uninterrupted block of time. Assessing angles on the plane in relation to the vertical and horizontal crosshairs and the edges of the paper. Next bullet point. Measuring relationships of sizes, also on the plane. How big is it? How big is this form compared to that one? Question mark. Next bullet point. Believing your measurements and drawing what you see without second guessing your sights. Try to avoid mental judgments or labels about the face you are drawing. Next bullet point. Setting aside any stored and memorized symbols from your childhood drawing. And final bullet point. And finally, perceiving details such as features without changing or revising visual information to fit preconceptions about what parts are important. They are all important, and each part must be given its full proportion in relation to the other parts. This requires bypassing the brain's propensity to change incoming information without letting you know what it has done. Your sighting tool, your pencil, will enable you to get at the true perceptions, but you must agree to believe them. If you feel that you need to review any of the techniques before you start to draw, turn to the previous chapters to refresh your memory. Reviewing some of the exercises, in fact, will help strengthen your new skills. A short session of pure contour drawing is particularly useful in strengthening your newfound method of gaining access to your right hemisphere and quieting the left. A warm-up exercise. To illuminate for yourself the importance of edges, spaces, and relationships in portrait drawing, I suggest that you copy or make a drawing of John Singer Sargent's beautiful profile portrait of M.M.E. Pierre Gertrude, Gautreau, which the artist drew in 1883. For centuries, copying masterworks was recommended as an aid to learning to draw. Beginning around the middle of the 20th century, many art schools began to reject traditional teaching methods, and copying masters' drawings went out of favor. Now, copying is back into favor as an effective means of training the eye. It is, after all, the method by which the old masters themselves, as apprentices, all right, next, learn to draw and paint. I believe that copying great drawings is very instructive for beginning students. Copying forces one to slow down and really see what the artist saw. I can practically guarantee that carefully copying any masterwork of drawing will forever imprint the image in your memory. Therefore, because copied drawings become an almost permanent file of memorizing images, I recommend that you copy only the work of major and minor masters of drawing. We are fortunate these days to have reproductions of great works readily available in books or for downloading from the internet. Please read all of the instructions before you begin your exercise copy of Sargent's profile portrait of MME Pierre Gertrude, also known as Madame X. What you'll need: your pad of drawing paper, your 2B writing pencil and 4B drawing pencils, sharpened, and your erasers, your plastic picture plane to use as a template for your format, an hour of uninterrupted time. You will use your skills of seeing edges, spaces, and relationships in this drawing. 1. As always in starting a drawing, first draw a format. Center your picture plane on your drawing paper and use your pencil to draw around the outside edges. Then lightly draw crosshairs on your paper. Number 2. Since the original is a line drawing, do not tone your paper. Lights and shadows are not relevant in this exercise. Lightly draw the crosshairs. 3. Lay your clear plastic picture plane directly on top of the Sargent drawing and note where the crosshairs fall on the portrait drawing. You will immediately see how this will help you in deciding on a basic unit and starting your copy of the drawing. You can check proportional relationships right on the original drawing and transfer them to your copy. 4. Choose your basic unit, the length of the ear or the nose or eye level to chin, as a starting shape or size and transfer it to your drawing. This will ensure that your drawing will be correctly sized within the format, and your basic unit will be your constant unit for comparing measurements. In Figure 9-24, check the following perceptions, which are keyed to numbers 1 through 9 below. Remember that all edges, spaces, and shapes are located in relation to the crosshairs and the format edges that are all sighted on the plane. 1. Where is the point where the forehead meets the hairline? 2. Where is the outermost curve of the tip of the nose? 3. What are the angles/curves of the forehead? 4. What is the negative shape next to the forehead/nose? 5. If you draw a line between the tip of the nose and the outermost curve of the chin, what is the angle of that line relative to vertical or horizontal? 6. What is the negative shape defined by that line? 7. Relative to the crosshairs, where is the curve of the front of the neck? 8. What is the negative space made by the chin and neck? 9. What is the position of the back of the ear, the bend of the neck, and the slant of the back? Continue in this fashion. Putting the drawing together like a jigsaw puzzle. Where's the ear? How big is it relative to the crosshairs or to your basic unit? What is the angle of the back of the neck? What is the shape of the negative space made by the back of the neck and the hair? And so on. Compare all sizes to your basic unit. Draw just what you see, nothing more. Observe how small an eye is relative to the nose, and then observe the size of the mouth relative to the eye. When you have unlocked the true proportions of the features relative to the whole form of the skull, I feel quite sure you will be surprised. In fact, if you lay down your pencil over the features, you will see what a small proportion of the whole form is occupied by the main features. When you have finished, turn both the book and your drawing upside down. Compare the two drawings. Check for any errors in your copy of Sargent's drawing. You can see them more easily upside down, not face down, but upside down, and make any necessary corrections. Now, the real thing, a profile portrait of a person. Now you are ready to draw a real portrait of a person. You'll be seeing the wondrous complexity of contours, watching your drawing evolve from the line that is your unique creative invention, and observing yourself integrating your skills into the drawing process. You will be seeing in the artist mode of seeing an astounding thing as it is, not a symbolized, categorized, analyzed, memorized shell of itself. Opening the door to see clearly what is before you, you will draw the image by which you make yourself known to viewers of your drawing. If I were demonstrating the process of drawing a portrait profile, I would not be naming parts. I would point to the various areas and refer to the features. For example, as this form, this contour, this angle, the curve of this form, and so on. Unfortunately, however, for the sake of clarity in writing, I'll have to name the parts. The process may seem cumbersome and detailed when you read these written out as verbal instructions. The truth is that your drawing will seem like a wordless, antic dance, an exhilarating investigation, with each new perception miraculously linked to the last and to the next. With that caution in mind about avoiding naming parts as you draw, read through all the instructions before you start, and then try to do the drawing without interruption. And I think that's a good place to stop. We're almost at 30 minutes. So, yeah, thanks for bearing with me, and we will get started on what you'll need for your profile portrait. Thanks. See you next time.